Did you miss the South Wireless Summit in Nashville earlier this week? If you did, don't worry about it. Stick around, I'm going to ramp you up. Hey everybody, it's Paul Harris with Blackhawk Recruiters here in sunny California. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. As you may know, I run an executive search firm that specializes in the telecom infrastructure space and kind of everything that spins in that orbit. And earlier this week, I was at the South Wireless Summit in Nashville, and it was a great show. If you were not able to make it, I'm going to do my best to kind of give you what happened, what the speakers talked about, the high points, and then, of course, as I always try to make you feel like you were there. So this was held at the Sheraton Music City in Nashville. It was March 18 through 20. And the South Wireless Summit, basically what it is all the state wireless associations for 12 different South region states get together and they have a meeting in one place, kind of a regional deal. So this is Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, and then of course Tennessee, where it was in Nashville. So this was put on primarily by a gentleman named Steve Nicley, who's the chairman of the South Wireless Summit, and of course he, along with a great team, put together a great meeting. They need to give them a lot of props. They arranged everything. So let me give you some of the highlights. So first of all, so Monday was called it was a clay shoot, right? I'm from California. What I know about a clay shoot, but anyways, kind of like their version of a golf tournament, screwing around, having a good time. Monday night was the social, and they had a band play. It was a great day. Tuesday started the meat and potatoes. So let me start with reporting on that. So the first one that I want to report on was moderated by a gentleman named Dale Schumaker, who's from the Texas Wireless Association, and he was basically interviewing a gentleman named Todd Schlekeway. If you are in this industry, you know who Todd is. He's the executive director for NATE, the National Association of Tower Erectors, and I got to tell you, what a great guy he is. He is a gift in this world to all of us. Let me tell you a little bit about NATE. There's 860 companies that are members of NATE. Not 860 people, but companies. It's comprised of carriers, contractors, vertical real estate folks, training companies, drone companies, etc. And his speech was called "Roadblocks and Runways to 5G." So right, you know, what's kind of getting in our way, what's the impediments, and what's going great. So let me start with two roadblocks real quickly. And this first one I'm going to spend a little time on because it is, I could sum up the theme of this entire meeting, which is two things. There's a ton of stuff going on in terms of the build out, and number two is that we don't have the workforce to get it done. So he talked a lot about workforce development, addressing the skills gap, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Number two thing he talked about was payment terms, right? This is what keeps people up at night. Carriers are stretching out the payment terms to these small guys. It used to be 30 days you get paid, then 60, then 90, then 120, and now some are reporting up to 145 days to get paid. So basically the carriers are treating these smaller companies as a bank, hurts cash flow. You know how that story ends. So anyways, let's talk about some of the runways, the good news. Good news is the FCC has strong leadership and proponents of the wireless infrastructure industry in terms of, number one, Chairman Ajit Pai, and then also the Commissioner Brendan Carr. These guys are all in for our industry, doing a great job. They climb towers, 1,800-foot towers. They do a great job on the legislative and regulatory issues. So that's a good thing. Another good point is the training. So the Communications Job Training Act is $20 million a year for 3 years to help people in our industry get trained up and get them up to speed. NATE has 40 companies that are training companies. Warriors for Wireless, you know them. They help train our military and get them ramped up so they can take over climbing tower jobs, etc. There's TIRAP, which is the Telecommunications Industry Registered Apprentice Program, TIRAP, and then the National Wireless Safety Alliance. So they have a certification program. So if you're NWSA certified, it's like sending a message that you can work anywhere, like getting a driver license in this state. You can drive across the United States. That's what National Wireless Safety Alliance does. Great news from NATE. Thank you, Todd. Great job. This next one I want to cover real quickly. This one was probably, I think, the most well-attended and most looked forward to keynote. This was Jay Brown, who's the CEO of Crown Castle. I've been watching him for years when he was the CFO for Crown, and he'd be on those tower panels and etc., doing a great job. So he had a lot of stuff I want to cover. So let me get to it real quickly. So he's been with Crown for 20 years, back when they did paging, and he talked about the incredible changes in the industry, which is, no longer paging traffic. It is traffic for work and entertainment that's going on their towers. He talked about how 5G has basically, for all intents and purposes, zero latency, and how valuable that is for so many different niches. He mentioned machine to machine and industrial IoT, and how it, has a lower cost and increased efficiency. All good news. This one, you're going to pay attention to this one, the ton of money that is going into the small cell deployment over the next 20 years. He described it as being huge, and he gave some examples. So here we go. In 2019, Crown plans to deploy 10 to 15,000 small cells. He also mentioned they've completed 30,000, and they have 30 to 35,000 more in process. How about that? And he said the ramp will just continue, and he said that each carrier will eventually have 1 million small cells per carrier. I'm going to say that again, right? 1 million small cells per carrier in the near future. Incredible. He also talked about, this was interesting, how spectrum is becoming cheaper, right? In the past, a carrier would spend a bunch of money on spectrum, and then they wouldn't have much money on deployments. But as the cost of spectrum comes down, leaves more money left over for deployments. He said the next decade will have steady spending in terms of capital investment by the carriers, with no what he calls inflection points, where it dips down to a certain level. All good news. He talked about the industry shift and how, and this is so interesting to me. So we know this used to be the smaller guys would build 10 or 15 or 20 towers per year. But right now, the carriers are asking for thousands to be built. And what does that mean to the industry? Obviously, if my brain works, right? It means more work for Crown Castle, SBA, American Tower, Vertical Bridge, Tillman, etc. And then he gave us a quote, which is, "We haven't scratched the surface of the shortage of labor in this industry." And he said the shortage of labor is not only in this industry, it's all industries. It's just not telecom. He mentioned that Crown is going to continue to be focused on the United States. He says it's the fastest and largest growing market, so why go overseas like some of the other tower companies are doing? He mentioned that the data centers need to go nearer to the edge to be, to faster for the, autonomous vehicles and all these other things that have so many different sensors that need to be very, very quick in terms of latency. He mentioned this one, which we know, the lines are blurring between wireless and wireline. We've been saying that for years. You probably heard me say that. Well, that's why we've always said that we recruit in the wireless infrastructure space. Well, we changed that a couple years ago to say we recruit in the telecom infrastructure space, because as I read this years ago, man, there sure is a lot of wires on wireless. So it's the lines are blurring between wireless and wireline. I agree. He said he's a money guy, so keep in mind how his brain thinks. The cost of debt is coming down as the industry matures. It makes total sense. Years ago, if you said, hey, I want you to invest in the tower space, someone would say tower space. Oh, it sounds risky, so my risk-reward ratio needs to be a lot higher. But as the industry is now well known for kicking off cash like crazy with all these renters, the AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile that pay their bills on time and etc. It's less risk, so it changes those ratios. Very, very interesting stuff coming from a guy that thinks about money all the time. I'm sure he does. So great job done by Jay. Let me tell you real quickly a few more things that happened in that day. Steve Nicely showed a video, very touching video, by the way. It highlighted 5 different people in an industry who have passed away in the past year. 4 were to cancer, and 1 was to a fall. If you want to donate to that organization, you can contact Steve Nicely directly. That was kind of touching. Anyways, afternoon was a bowling session, which apparently I'm still bad at bowling. And then they had a networking event at night. I'm going to go one more real quickly. Let me get to the meat and potatoes of Wednesday. So Wednesday had something that we all look forward to at all these different shows, the Tower panel. And these guys are, man, a bunch of characters, and I say that with love for all of them. These guys, they used to work together. They compete against each other now. They're friends. They bust each other's chops, and it's always great comedy. And the moderator now was supposed to be Tant from Vogue Towers, you know her, and she had a grandbaby that day, so she wasn't able to be there, so she turned it over to the president of Vogue Towers, Gill, and she was in charge of herding the cats, as I call it. So who was on the panel? Allan Tantillo, you know him from T-Mobile. He's now with Vertical Bridge, if you don't know that. Bizick from Tarpon Towers. He's always there and always a great comedy, and I would call him the head troublemaker this time, and I do that with love to Ron. He's a great guy. John Stevens from Infinigy was on the Tower panel, and Jeff Langdon from Tillman, and then Danny Agresta from APC Towers. Let me give you some of the quotes real quickly from some of these guys. So Allan said, the number of towers that the carriers need to build is huge. We know that. John talked about the 5G standards are not even decided yet, and so he was calling it the myth of 5G. And then he talked about kind of densification for his company. He's doing 5 small cells for each one macro tower. Very interesting. Jeff from Tillman talked about, he basically echoed what Jay said. There's no inflection point, and there's going to be busy for the the foreseeable future, basically, and that Tillman has a massive build going on, which they do. Ron had something that was very, very interesting to, I think, all of us, which is just there's a lot of white space that is being covered by these carriers now, which is an exact opposite of what's been happening in our world. As you know, it's been densification, but now there's some new places that never had coverage before, right? White space that is now being covered. Very interesting. And he says 70 to 80% of the revenue has been amendment revenue, but that is now changing. Very interesting. Janet asked the folks about M&A activity, and Ron stepped up and said, the multiples are at, quote, all-time highs, which makes me laugh only because I've been going to these things for so many years, and every year they say the same thing. Well, the multiples are all-time high. My gosh, they're at 18, and now they're 20, and then they're 24. He said the multiples are now at 28 to 30. Incredible. And once again, a great time to be a seller, bad time to be a buyer. Danny talked about how the landscape has changed over the 10 years in terms of there used to be 7 to 8 carriers in every market, and now there's 4, potentially going to 3, and how that changes the dynamics for the limited amount of space you have to rent space. Very, very interesting. And then she asked about how many of them plan on doing small cells. Very interesting. Tillman, no. Danny said no, and Ron said no. Small cell, not going to be in my future. So anyways, you guys, great show. Once again, a big thanks to Steve Nicley and the team from the South Wireless Summit. Next for me is going to be Wireless West next month in Scottsdale, and then of course in May will be my Super Bowl, as I call it, ConnectX in Orlando. So as always, if you have any permanent placement or temporary staffing needs, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm open 24 hours a day for you. Once again, I do these things for you folks that were not able to make it. I want to make sure you got the meat and potatoes, what happened, and also make you feel like you were there. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.